The Zethron Collective had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Their ships were massive. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their soldiers were bred in laboratories to be perfect killing machines. They had never lost a war. Commander Kale stood in the observation chamber of the Collective's main military base. His 4 eyes looked down at Earth below. The planet was small and blue. It was nothing compared to the great worlds of the Zethron Empire. He held a data tablet in his hands. On it was information about humanity's military forces. He studied the numbers carefully. Humans had slow reaction times. Their bodies were weak. A Zethron soldier could run faster, jump higher, and fight harder than any human. Humans lived for maybe 80 years. Zethron soldiers lived for 300. How could such creatures ever be a real threat? Kale walked to the council chamber. The great doors opened before him. Inside were the leaders of every major species in the Collective. There were the tall and metallic Vex. There were the insect-like Crow with their 6 arms. There were the energy beings known as the Luminar. All of them had conquered worlds. All of them had killed millions. They were the rulers of this galaxy. Kale took his place at the center of the chamber. He activated the holographic display. Images of Earth appeared. Images of human soldiers followed. The soldiers looked thin and tired. "This is humanity," Kale said. His voice was cold and clear. "They control 7 star systems. They have weapons, but the weapons are basic. They have fast spacecraft, but the ships are small. They have soldiers, but the soldiers are fragile." The Krell leader clicked its many mouths. "What is their threat level?" "Tier 3, Kale said. "They are competent. They are not weak. But they are nothing compared to us. A single Vanguard unit could defeat an entire human army." The Vanguard were the pride of the Zethron military. They were engineered soldiers. Their muscles were threaded with synthetic material. Their bones were reinforced with metal. Their brains had been altered to make them faster thinkers. A single Vanguard could defeat 100 normal soldiers. The Collective had 10,000 of them. The Luminar spoke without a mouth. Its voice came from all directions. "Why do we discuss this at all? If they are so weak, why are we even talking?" "Because they refuse to give us what we want," Kale said. "They control the Outer Rim territories. We need those territories." They said no. The room went quiet. No one had ever said no to the Zethron Collective before. A Vex commander stood up. The Vex were tall beings with silver skin. They had fought in more wars than any other species. They said no? Just like that? Just like that, Kale confirmed. They sent a delegation. They brought their generals and their military officers. They told us that the Outer Rim belongs to Earth. They said humans will not give it up. The council members looked at each other. Some of them made sounds that meant they were angry. Some made sounds that meant they were amused. To them, Earth was a child who had spoken back to its parents. "Then we teach them respect," the Vex commander said. "We send a force. We take what we want. We show them what happens when you refuse the Zethron Collective." Kale nodded. This was exactly what he had predicted. "I suggest we send 3 battle cruisers, 2,000 combat drones, 500 Vanguard soldiers. We will attack their forces in Sector 7. The engagement will be quick. We will suffer minimal losses. The humans will see our power. How long will this take?" The Luminar asked. 3 days, Kale said. "By the 3rd day, the humans will have no choice but to surrender." The Krell leader made a clicking sound. "Send the force." "But Commander Kale, I want you there. I want to see you watch as these humans learn their place." Kale bowed. "As you command." The next day, Kale watched from the command ship as the invasion force gathered. The 3 battle cruisers were massive. Each one was 2 kilometers long. They had weapons that could melt through steel from thousands of kilometers away. The combat drones were sleek and fast. They moved like mechanical insects. The vanguard soldiers stood in perfect lines. They were 8 feet tall. Their armor gleamed in the starlight. They looked like gods of war. This is going to be easy, Kale thought. But then something happened that Kale did not expect. A human ship appeared. It was small. It was slower than the Zethron vessels. On its hull was written a name, Earth Coalition Command. A human voice came through the communication channel. This is General Lisa Hartford of Earth. We have received your military deployment. This is your final chance to withdraw. If you attack our forces, you will lose this war. Kale looked at the woman on his screen. She was pale. Her face was lined with age. Her hair was gray. She looked like she should be in a medical facility, not commanding a military force. But when she spoke, her voice did not shake. Her eyes did not blink. She spoke as though she had already won. This is strange, Kale thought. He had seen fear in every opponent the collective had ever faced. But this woman spoke like she had no fear at all. General Hartford, Kale said. You command a small force. We command a fleet. You have basic weapons. We have technology that is 10,000 years more advanced. You are brave, but bravery does not win wars. Technology wins wars. Numbers win wars. You are right about one thing, Hartford said. Numbers matter, but you are counting wrong. You are not facing just soldiers. You are facing humanity. And you have never fought humanity before. The communication ended. Kale stood in silence. Around him, the other commanders were laughing. They did not understand what Hartford meant. But Kale felt something in his chest. Something like doubt. He pushed the feeling away. The Zethron force moved towards Sector 7. The battle was about to begin. But as Kale looked out at the stars, he could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something did not match his calculations. For the first time in his long life, Commander Kale wondered if he had made a mistake. The Zethron Collective sent new orders. They would not accept defeat. They would not accept that a Tier 3 civilization could stand against them. Commander Kale received the message in his command center. 3 more battlecruisers were coming. 5,000 more drones were being deployed. The Zethron Council had decided that they would break Earth's resistance through overwhelming force. General Lisa Hartford received intelligence about the new deployment. Her soldiers were exhausted. They had been fighting for 10 days. They had lost good people. Many of them had been wounded and were still fighting. They were running low on ammunition. By every logical measure, this was the moment when humans should give up. The Zethron would win. The war was over. Hartford called together her top commanders. Colonel Martin Hayes was there. Lieutenant Commander Nicole Wagner was there. Captain Aaron Cooper was there. These were the people she trusted most. We have a choice, Hartford said. We can retreat. We can live to fight another day. Or we can do something that the Zethron have not thought of yet. What do you have in mind? Colonel Hayes asked. We attack the command ship, Hartford said. We go directly for their leadership. We disable their ability to coordinate the battle. Nicole Wagner shook her head. The command ship is protected. They have thousands of drones guarding it. They have vanguard soldiers. We cannot get through. We can, Hartford said. Not with our weapons. Not with a direct assault. But we can get through using their own rules against them. The Zethron have created a perfect system. And perfect systems have perfect weaknesses. Hartford showed them the plans. The command ship had maintenance tunnels. It had ventilation systems. It had electrical conduits that ran from one end to the other. The Zethron had never thought that any enemy would dare attack the command ship. So they had protected the weapon systems and the main corridors. But the tunnels? The tunnels were unprotected. "This is suicide," Captain Cooper said. "We sent people into the heart of the enemy ship." "Yes," Hartford said. "It is suicide. But if we do not do this, everyone dies anyway. We lose the war. We lose our world. At least this way, we have a chance." She looked at her commanders. "Who will volunteer?" There was silence. Then Colonel Martin Hayes stood up. "I will lead the team." One by one, every commander in the room stood up. They all volunteered. They all knew that this was likely the last thing they would do. "We need 50 soldiers," Hartford said. "The best we have. People who are strong. People who are quick. People who are willing to die for Earth." 50 soldiers stepped forward. Among them was Staff Sergeant Rachel Kim. She had been in medical for 3 days. She was still healing from her wounds, but she was the fastest soldier they had. She knew the asteroid field better than anyone. She had proven that she would sacrifice anything for her team. "You should not be here," Colonel Hayes said when he saw Rachel. "I am the fastest," Rachel said, "and I know the Zethron. I have been inside their minds. I know how they think. You need me." Hayes looked at her. He could see that she was still injured, but he could also see that she was right. He nodded. "Then let us go." The team moved toward the command ship. They were in a small transport vessel. The ship was fast, but small enough that it would not look like an attack craft. They approached the ship at an angle that avoided the main sensors. When they were close, they cut the engines. The ship drifted toward the command vessel like a piece of debris. Zethron sensors showed no sign of threat. The team moved through the tunnels. They were quiet. They were careful. Every sound was a risk. Every movement had to be planned. The tunnels were narrow. In some places, they had to move one at a time. In other places, the tunnels were blocked by doors. But the humans had brought tools. They cut through the doors. They moved deeper into the ship. Then they found the main reactor chamber. The chamber was huge. The reactor was the size of a building. It provided power for the entire ship. James Cooper, a young engineer from Michigan, looked at the reactor. He understood what it was. He understood what it could do. "If we overload it," he said, "the explosion will destroy the ship." "Can you do it?" Colonel Hayes asked. "Yes," James said, "but I will not be able to leave before it explodes." James Cooper did not hesitate. He had known this when he volunteered. He moved toward the reactor controls. He began entering commands. "James," Rachel said. "Wait." James turned around. Rachel was standing there. She was bleeding again. Her injuries had reopened when they moved through the tunnels. "I am sorry," Rachel said. "I could not let you do this alone." "Go," James said. "You still have time." "No," Rachel said. "This is where we stand. This is where we fight. Together." James Cooper nodded. Together, they worked on the reactor. They entered codes. They disabled safeties. They set the system to overload in 5 minutes. "Go," James shouted to the other soldiers. "Run, now!" The team moved. They ran through the tunnels. They ran toward the ship. The ground was shaking. The reactor was beginning to fail. Systems were shutting down. The ship was dying, but Rachel Kim was not running. She was moving deeper into the ship. She had a plan. She had entered the ship's computer system through a maintenance port. She was manually shutting down the communication array. Without communication, the Zethron command could not coordinate. The battle would be chaos. As the reactor exploded, Rachel Kim finally turned and ran. The explosion was enormous. It tore through half the ship. Rachel was thrown down a corridor. She crashed into a wall. She was broken and bleeding, but the communication array was destroyed. Outside the ship, Colonel Martin Hayes watched from the transport. The command vessel was dying. Its systems were failing. It was breaking apart. The Zethron drones suddenly stopped moving in coordination. They were confused. They had no orders. They had no leadership. The organized army became a scattered mob of machines fighting without direction. Commander Kale was in an escape pod when he saw what had happened. His ship was destroyed. His army was falling apart. Humans had done the impossible. They had taken a small force and turned it into something unstoppable. But that was not the most important thing that Kale understood in that moment. The most important thing was that a human named Rachel Kim had chosen to destroy the communication system to save her people. Even though she knew she would likely die, even though she was badly injured, even though she could have escaped, she chose to stand and fight for her people. On the bridge of the human command center, General Lisa Hartford watched the command ship fall apart. She saw the explosion. She did not know if her soldiers had survived, but she knew that they had done what they set out to do. Colonel Martin Hayes brought the transport back. Rachel Kim was still alive. James Cooper did not return. Neither did 5 other soldiers who had stayed behind to hold off the Zethron while others escaped. But the command ship was destroyed. The Zethron coordination was broken, and humanity had won an impossible war. The asteroid field stretched for hundreds of kilometers in all directions. Rocks of all sizes floated in the darkness of space. Some asteroids were the size of mountains. Some were no bigger than buildings. The Zethron commanders studied the maps. This was where the humans had taken their position. General Lisa Hartford sat in the command center of the human station. Around her were screens showing everything that happened on the battlefield. She watched as her soldiers moved into position among the asteroids. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were the best Earth had to offer. There was Colonel Martin Hayes. He had fought in 7 wars across 3 continents. There was Lieutenant Commander Nicole Wagner. She had trained elite teams for 15 years. There was Captain Aaron Cooper. His tactics had saved thousands of lives. These were the people who would defend Earth. Hartford looked at the numbers on her screen. She had 200 soldiers. The Zethron had 500 Vanguard and 2,000 drones. On paper, it was not even close. But Hartford did not think about numbers on paper. She thought about what humans could do. "All units, this is command," she said into the radio. "You know what you are here to do. You know what is at stake. I will not tell you that this will be easy, but I will tell you that your families are counting on you. Your world is counting on you. Make them proud." The human soldiers whispered back their acknowledgement. Each soldier heard the order in their ear. Each soldier understood that this was their moment. The Zethron drones came first. They were small and fast. They moved through space like predators hunting for prey. Thousands of them entered the asteroid field. Their sensors scanned for human positions. Their weapons were ready, but the humans were already moving. Colonel Martin Hayes was with the first strike team. He had placed his soldiers in spots that the Zethron computers had not considered important. The asteroids had caves. The caves had shadows. In the shadows, humans could hide. When the first wave of drones entered the asteroid field, human soldiers fired from 3 different directions at once. The drones were not expecting this. They turned toward the fire. But the humans were already gone, moving deeper into the asteroid field. A drone fired a laser. The laser was powerful. It could cut through steel. But the human soldier, who had just fired, ducked behind an asteroid. The laser hit the rock. The rock exploded. The human soldier was already 30 meters away. The Zethron drones began to hunt. They moved in patterns. They used algorithms. They tried to surround the human positions. But humans do not think like algorithms. Humans think like hunters who have known their prey for centuries. Captain Aaron Cooper led a team deeper into the asteroid field. His soldiers moved in silence. They did not use computers to tell them where to go. They used their eyes. They used their training. When one soldier saw danger, he held up his hand. The entire team stopped. They found a different path. The Zethron drones destroyed rocks. They destroyed empty equipment. But they did not destroy humans. Commander Kale watched from the command ship. His tactical officers told him what was happening. The drones were not finding the humans. The humans were disappearing. The humans were attacking from places that made no sense. Why are they moving that way? Kale asked, pointing to a screen. We do not know, his tactical officer said. It is not an efficient path. It is not direct. But they are moving in groups of 3 to 5. They keep themselves hidden. Kale stared at the screen. The tactical officer was right. The human movements did not follow the patterns of military strategy that Kale understood. Humans should move directly toward objectives. Humans should try to find the strongest position. Instead, they moved like ghosts. The vanguard soldiers were deployed next. 500 of them in perfect formation. They were 8 feet tall. Their armor was thick. Their weapons were advanced. They moved toward the human position with confidence. This is where we end this, Kale thought. The vanguard will crush them. But something happened that Kale did not expect. The humans did not fight the vanguard head-on. Instead, they attacked the drones that supported the vanguard. They destroyed the communication systems. They destroyed the supply lines. They attacked from angles where the vanguard could not defend. A vanguard soldier fired his weapon at a human position. The weapon was powerful. It should have killed everyone in the area. But there was no one there. The human soldier had already moved. He had calculated that the vanguard would fire. He had known the weapon's power. He had moved 3 meters to the left. The weapon destroyed the asteroid behind him. Another human soldier, a woman named Rachel Kim, found herself face to face with a vanguard. This should have been her death. The vanguard was twice her size. The vanguard had better armor. The vanguard was stronger and faster. But Rachel Kim did not try to win by strength. She threw a device at the vanguard's feet. The device sent out a pulse of electromagnetic energy. The vanguard systems went crazy for 5 seconds. In 5 seconds, Rachel disappeared among the rocks. The Zethron drones kept dying. The vanguard soldiers kept being outmaneuvered. The humans fought like they understood the asteroid field better than anything else. Because they did. They had studied the space. They had memorized it. They knew where every rock was. They knew the gravity patterns. By the end of the first day, the Zethron force had lost 300 drones and 2 vanguard soldiers. Kale called for a strategy meeting. His commanders sat in silence. They had never lost soldiers before. They had never seen enemies move like this. The humans are not fighting by our rules, the weapons officer said. Then we changed the rules, Kale said. We bring in more drones. We bring in more vanguard. We flood the asteroid field with force. They cannot hide from overwhelming numbers. But as Kale gave the order, he looked at the combat footage again. He watched a human soldier help an injured soldier get to safety. The injured soldier had been hit twice. He should not be able to walk. But the other soldier supported him. Together they moved through the darkness. The Zethron would never do this. The Zethron would leave the injured soldier behind. The Zethron would focus on victory. But the humans? The humans cared about each other. Kale did not understand it. But he was starting to realize that his calculations had been wrong from the beginning. 5 days into the battle, the situation was clear to everyone. The Zethron had more weapons. The Zethron had more soldiers. The Zethron had better technology. But the humans were still fighting. Commander Kale stood in front of the battle display. More than 2,000 drones had been destroyed. 50 Vanguard soldiers were dead or damaged. The human losses were smaller, but real. 32 humans had died. 20 more were wounded. By any logical measurement, the Zethron should have won already. But they had not. The humans kept fighting. They kept adapting. They kept finding new ways to use the asteroid field. Then came the moment that changed everything. Staff Sergeant Rachel Kim was leading her fire team through a narrow pass between two large asteroids. The pass was tight. There was no room to move left or right. It was the only way to reach a Zethron supply depot. Rachel had planned this route for days, but the Zethron had figured out the same route. They were waiting. Rachel saw the blockade ahead. 7 Vanguard soldiers stood in formation. They had heavy weapons. Rachel's team had rifles and grenades. It was not a fair fight. Rachel could have ordered her team to retreat. They could have gone back and found another way. The smart choice was to leave. But Rachel Kim looked at her soldiers. She saw James Martin. He was from Texas. He had a wife and 2 children waiting on Earth. She saw Lisa Chung. She was from California. She had joined the military to see the stars. She saw David Wang. He was only 20 years old. He was the youngest soldier in the unit. Rachel Kim made a decision that would change the war. "All units listen to me," she said over the radio. "I am moving forward. I am going to draw their fire. I want the rest of you to provide covering fire and then fall back. That is an order." "Staff Sergeant, no," James said. "We can find another route." "That is not an order I am asking about," Rachel said. "I am doing this. You will support me. You will retreat. And you will tell command what happened. Do you understand?" There was silence. Then James said, "Yes, Sergeant. We understand." Rachel Kim moved forward alone. She ran toward the Vanguard soldiers. They were surprised to see a single human running toward them. They fired. Rachel was fast. She was trained. But she was not as fast as a Vanguard. A blast hit her in the left shoulder. Pain exploded through her body. She kept running. Another blast caught her in the leg. She fell. She pushed herself back up and kept moving. She was 30 meters from the Vanguard now. She could see their faces. She could see their eyes. She could see the moment they realized that this human was not going to stop. This human was not going to give up. Rachel pulled the pin on a grenade and threw it. The grenade exploded near the Vanguard formation. It did not kill them. Their armor was too strong. But it pushed them back. It gave the human fire team behind her the moment they needed. James Martin looked at his commander. He saw Rachel fall. He saw blood in her suit. But he also saw what she had done. The Vanguard were distracted. The blockade was broken. "Fall back," James shouted. Everyone moved now. The human soldiers fired and moved backward. They covered each other as they retreated. Lisa helped David. James helped the others. They moved like a machine that had been built to work together. Rachel tried to get back to her feet. Another blast hit her. This one was worse. She was bleeding in 3 places. She could not walk anymore. She could barely see, but she kept her weapon pointed at the Vanguard. She kept firing. She kept them focused on her instead of on the team retreating behind the asteroids. When the last of her team was safe, Rachel stopped firing. She sat against a rock. She was going to die here. She knew this, but she also knew that her team would live. Her team would report what she had done. Her sacrifice would matter. A shadow fell over her. A Vanguard soldier stepped around the asteroid. The soldier raised his weapon. Then there was the sound of explosions. A shuttle came screaming through the asteroid field. Human soldiers hung from the shuttle sides. They fired at the Vanguard soldiers. The shuttle landed between Rachel and the Vanguard. James Martin jumped down from the shuttle. He grabbed Rachel and pulled her aboard. The shuttle took off immediately. Behind them, the Vanguard soldiers fired useless weapons at the fleeing aircraft. In the command center, Cale watched this exchange. His systems had recorded everything. He watched Rachel Kim run toward certain death. He watched her draw fire to protect her team. He watched her bleed and keep fighting. He watched humans risk their lives to save her. Cale did not understand it. In Zethron culture, a soldier who was injured would be left behind. The mission was more important than any individual. Wasting resources to save someone was inefficient. It was wasteful, but humans did not think like this. Humans thought of each other as a family. Humans valued the person sitting next to them more than they valued the mission itself. This was something that no computer could have predicted. This was something that did not appear in any military database. Humans would die for each other. And somehow, this made them stronger. When Rachel reached the medical chamber, she was conscious. Despite her injuries, despite the pain, she was thinking about her team. Did they get out? She asked. Did everyone make it? Everyone made it, James said. Because of you. You saved them. Rachel closed her eyes. She had done what she had to do. In the next hour, something strange happened across the human forces. Every soldier heard the story of what Rachel had done. They heard about her sacrifice. And something changed in them. The fear went away. They stopped fighting just to survive. They started fighting to protect each other. More humans began to do what Rachel had done. Captain Aaron Cooper charged a Vanguard position to buy time for his squad to escape. He was hit 7 times. He did not fall. He kept moving forward. Lieutenant Commander Nicole Wagner called in a strike from above while she held off a Vanguard squad alone. She was badly hurt, but she did not retreat. She stood her ground so others could live. The Zethron commanders watched in horror as the humans seemed to become more powerful the more they were hurt. It made no sense. A wounded soldier should fight worse. But the humans fought better. They fought with a fury that could not be stopped. Cale realized something that he had never considered before. In Zethron culture, they had removed emotion from warfare. They had removed love. They had removed loyalty. They had made themselves perfect soldiers and empty beings. But humans were not empty. Humans were full of things that made them fight harder. Humans would die for their friends. Humans would die for their families. Humans would die for people they had never met if it meant protecting something they believed in. For the first time in his life, Commander Cale was afraid. Not of the weapons, not of the numbers, but afraid of an enemy that cared about something more than living. 3 days after the battle ended, Commander Cale sat alone in a small room on a neutral station. His ship was gone. His army was destroyed. 10,000 soldiers under his command had been lost. The Zethron Collective had never experienced defeat on this scale. A message came to him. General Lisa Hartford wanted to meet with him. Cale did not know what to expect. Perhaps the humans would execute him. Perhaps they would make him a prisoner. Perhaps they would humiliate him in front of the galaxy. He went to the meeting chamber. General Hartford was there. With her was Captain Devin Brooks, who had been at the original negotiation. With them was Colonel Martin Hayes. They looked at Cale in silence for a moment. Then Hartford spoke. "You came to this sector with a goal," she said. "You wanted to teach us a lesson. You wanted to show us that the Zethron Collective could not be resisted." Cale did not speak. He had nothing to say. "You failed," Hartford said, "but not in the way you expected to fail." Hartford pressed a button. A holographic display appeared. It showed the battle from the Zethron perspective. Cale watched the footage. He watched his drones being destroyed. He watched his vanguard soldiers being outmaneuvered. He watched his command ship being torn apart. "This is what you saw," Hartford said. "Humans defeating advanced technology. Humans defeating superior forces. Humans defeating the greatest military power in the galaxy." The display changed. Now it showed the battle from the human perspective. It showed Rachel Kim running toward the vanguard. It showed James Martin supporting his injured soldier. It showed the shuttle team launching a rescue mission. It showed James Cooper entering the reactor chamber. "But this is what we saw," Hartford said. "This is what mattered. We saw each other. We fought for each other. We died for each other. That is the difference." Cale looked at the footage. He understood what Hartford was saying, but he still did not fully comprehend it. "Your soldiers were stronger," Hartford said. "Your weapons were better. Your technology was more advanced. None of that mattered because your soldiers did not care about each other. They cared about following orders. They cared about completing missions. But they did not care about the soldier standing next to them." Colonel Martin Hayes stepped forward. He had been badly wounded in the battle. His left arm was in a medical sling. His face had a burn scar down the right side. "I have a question for you," Hayes said. "If I had been a Zethron soldier and I had been trapped on the battlefield, what would your military have done?" "You would have been left behind," Cale said. "You would have been considered a casualty of war." "Right," Hayes said. "But I was a human soldier, and my team came back for me. They risked their lives to save me, not because the mission required it, but because I was their brother. That is what wins wars." Cale felt something strange in his chest. It was not pain. It was not anger. It was something that Zethron rarely felt. It was shame. "I sent 10,000 soldiers to fight," Cale said. "I expected them to win. I expected them to crush you." "They were good soldiers," Hartford said. "I am sure they were brave. I am sure they followed orders perfectly. But they were not your soldiers. They were not fighting for you. They were fighting because they were told to fight. That is the weakness of your system." Hartford showed more footage. It showed humans laughing together between battles. It showed them sharing food. It showed them talking about their families. It showed them caring about things beyond the war. "When my soldiers fight," Hartford said, "they fight knowing that every person next to them will stand with them. They will not abandon them. They will not sacrifice them for efficiency. They will stand with them until the end." Cale watched the footage in silence. He understood now. The humans had not won with better weapons. They had won with something stronger. They had won with love, with loyalty, with the willingness to die for the person next to you. "What will you do with me?" Cale asked. "That is up to you," Hartford said. "You have a choice. You can return to the Zethron Collective and tell them the truth about what happened here. Or you can continue running, and they will hunt you for the rest of your life." "If I tell them the truth, they will not believe me," Cale said. "They will think I am making excuses for my failure." "Probably," Hartford said. "But you will have told them. What they do with that information is their choice." Cale thought for a long time. He had spent his entire life serving the Zethron Collective. He had believed that technology was everything. He had believed that superiority was measured in power. He had been wrong. "I will tell them the truth," Cale said. "But I do not think it will matter." "No," Hartford agreed. "I do not think it will matter either. But you will have tried." Over the next week, formal peace negotiations began. The Zethron Collective agreed to withdraw from the Outer Rim territories. They agreed to respect Earth's sovereignty. They agreed to establish diplomatic relations. But more importantly, Commander Cale submitted a full report to the Zethron Council. He detailed everything that had happened. He explained how humans had defeated the superior Zethron forces. He explained about Rachel Kim's sacrifice. He explained about James Cooper dying to save his team. He explained about soldiers helping wounded comrades instead of leaving them behind. The Zethron Council received the report and filed it away. They did not believe it. They thought it was excuses. They thought it was the rambling of a commander who had failed. But there was one council member who listened. The luminar representative, the energy being who saw beyond the physical world, understood what Kale was saying. It read the report, and it understood. Humanity had discovered something that the Zethron had lost 10,000 years ago. Humans still had the ability to love. Humans still had the ability to sacrifice for each other. And somehow, this made them stronger than all the weapons in the galaxy. General Hartford stood on the observation deck of a human spacecraft. The peace negotiations were complete. Below, the stars of the outer rim stretched out like diamonds on black cloth. Captain Devon Brooks approached her. The Zethron have confirmed their withdrawal. We have won. Hartford nodded. But she was not thinking about victory. She was thinking about the soldiers who had not come home. She was thinking about James Cooper, who had destroyed the reactor. She was thinking about the 5 others who had stayed behind. We have won, Hartford said quietly. But at a cost. Yes, Brooks said. They knew the cost when they volunteered. I know, Hartford said. That is what makes them the finest warriors the galaxy has ever known. They knew they might die. They knew they might never come home. But they went anyway, because it was the right thing to do. The stars seemed to shine brighter, and somewhere among them, Earth waited. A small blue planet that had taught the galaxy a lesson about what real strength meant. Not the strength of weapons, not the strength of numbers, but the strength of people willing to die for each other. The Zethron Collective would rule the stars for many more years. But they would never again be the most powerful force in the galaxy, because they had encountered something they could not measure with their instruments. They had encountered the human heart.